do a little recap. It's been a minute since y'all talked about haircutting, probably. Right now, JC is shampooing and conditioning the mannequin. Why is that a good thing to do before you dive into a haircut?
Well, I get rid of all any oils and dirt that may be inside there. Yeah, and it also can check the hair for any abrasions.
You're gonna be shear cutting, right?
Yeah, it's all over shear cut. I'm not gonna use any clippers.
Oh,
I did.
Okay, and plus to wet the hair to get the hair moist,
Yeah, it's the easier way to get wet.
and to really understand what texture hair you're dealing with.
Right. So you want to think about it this way: when you're going into
Just one shampoo?
one is fine. Just make sure you condition it and rinse it with cold water so some of the conditioner can stay in it.
Oh, that's the reason why.
Yeah, but also you want to make sure you get all the dirt and stuff out of there because you're really going to be in tune with the client when you do shear cuts because it's just your hands, the comb, and the shears, right? So you got to get in and you got to set what some people will call what? Guideline. So you can set a stationary guideline, which the cut I'm going to do today is going to start off with a stationary guideline across the top. And on the sides and the back, it's going to be a traveling guideline. Everybody remember what a traveling guideline is, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm not too good with the stationary. I said I'm not too good with the stationary, so it's good that you do understand how weak the stationary bit is.
okay, yeah.
Stationary is like a blunt cut, right?
A stationary guideline just means your guideline is going to be set a little bit longer, probably, or it's going to stretch across more of the head. It doesn't matter where you put it at; it's still going to be stationary. So
Like
remember,
what do you mean by stationary? Like it never moves.
so remember, if you set one guideline and everything that you cut, your guideline will be
cut
from that.
Right?
So if you're cutting on the right side, you would pull the hair all the way back to your stationary guideline, and you even it up with that, and you would cut it. All right, so that's why I said it's going to be a combination of both. You can cut the top with a stationary guideline. It's a little bit easier, but the sides is going to be kind of hard to try to over-direct everything to one stationary guideline. So remember when we did the haircut over there, when we cut the top with the shears, how I parted it down the middle and I set that guide all the way back?
Yeah.
That would be considered a stationary guideline.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
So if you would have did it the other way, you would have set what you call a traveling guideline, where you cut the piece in the front and then you just, work your way slowly back towards the back. That would be a traveling guideline, which is typically what you're going to use. Once you get used to it, and once you get used to doing shear cuts, you realize it's not so much of following a guideline. It's basically, off of feel and comfort. Like you start to measure things when you do shear cuts.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. It's a different lingo when you get to dealing with people who want shear cuts. They say things like, I want it, off the collar, or I want it over the ears, or I want it to hang below the ears, or something like that. So this is the lingo that you will have to understand and recognize what people want. So consultations are very important. You want to make sure you're asking the right questions. You want to make sure you have a clear understanding of what it is that the client wants. So the typical gentleman's cut that we're going to do, or that I'm going to do today, is pretty much what a lot of them actually want. They're going to say something along the lines like, yeah, I want it over the ears and off the collar. So what that means is this part around the ears probably irritates them. They want you to go ahead and trim that up. And when they wear like a button-up shirt, they don't want the hair to get caught on the collar. All right? So it's real easy to judge how to do that if they have a shirt with a collar on it already. You just pretty much make your outline right there where that collar is. But some people might have on a V-neck or something like that. You have to eyeball it and figure out, okay, this is where they're going to have it. This is where I want it to stop.
Yeah.
All right? For the most part, all over shear cut, you'll probably use your trimmers towards the end, to clean up the neck, around the sideburns, and depending on how they wear it or style it in the front. Typically, they don't like hard lines in the front.
That's what I was just about to ask you. Do you
Yeah.
like? I don't know. I haven't really cut any like Caucasian folks.
Right, but more than likely, if they want shear cuts, they're probably terrified of machines or clippers. That's what some people call them.
So you don't line them up, right? Unless they ask for it.
I mean, you outline it. Like I said, you clean up around the neck.
Yeah.
You clean up here, and then the little curved part of the sideburns, and maybe block it off. Or if they have a beard, you just clean everything up with the beard.
Yeah.
But typically, they don't like hard lines across the front.
Okay.
Typically. Now, you might get that 1 in a million. They're like, yeah, you can line the front.
like they'll tell you.
But yeah, they'll tell you. There's more than likely that'll be that person that say they want like a 2 on the sides and like a 6 or a 7 clipper on the top.
Yeah.
Then they'll probably want that profile.
Okay.
Alright? So, just what are things that people will probably say to you if they say they want a shear cut? They want it off the collar and off the ears.
Off the ear.
Alright.
Above the ear, right? Okay, yeah. Off the ear.
Around the ears.
Yeah.
Now, if they say over the ears, ask some more questions, because some people literally want their hair to hang over their ears, or some people might want you to cut it over their ears. You gotta be real specific when they ask you that.
Yeah.
All right, and depending on how much hair they have when they come in, most people don't speak like barbers speak. Like we speak everything in inches. You know what I'm saying? You go a half inch up, you go a quarter inch up, you cut an inch off, you cut a half an inch off. Most of your clients are not going to be, savvy to how much an inch actually is. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's where you get into descriptions like, well, how do you style your hair? Do you wear it to this side? Do you wear it to that side? Do you wear it backwards or do you wear it forward? So once they tell you the direction that they wear it or they part it, then you determine, you're like, okay, well, how much hair do you want left?
Excuse me, we just wash my hands.
Huh?
We just
Do,
wash my hands.
do you want to be able to comb it over? Do you want to be able to pull it all back? Or most women, do you want to be able to still put it in a ponytail? Like, these are the questions that you would ask. So you won't ultimately end up cutting it too short. I don't like the door open thing. It's confusing. But yeah, these are all the questions that you want to ask before you initially dive in and start cutting, okay?
Yeah.
And, every blue moon you get that person like, hey man, I just need a haircut. I just want shorter, do what you do. Typically, short layered cut on a man, you probably get it once or twice, but most of them are going to be tapered cut.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because once you put that outline around the ear and around the back, that hair is already shorter than whatever else you're going to put in on the cut. Thank you. Y'all another shampoo lesson. Okay. I'm gonna.
You need another shampoo.
Nah, it was the way you washed it. We just tossed it in the sink.
Huh? You say what?
We just tossed it in the sink. That's why the hair is kind of tangled up. But it's cool.
You complaining about my service?
I'm not. I'm not complaining at all.
I guess I should have just shook it down.
No, you good.
Did the shake before I brought it to you. Do they need to stand right there in front of the door and have a conversation while the class going on?
Go tell them to leave. Tell them. I'd love to see you pipe up on them. I'd love to see that.
You think I won't?
I know you will. That's why I'd love to see it.
So they couldn't hear you?
I didn't say that.
You didn't what?
You didn't say nothing?
I did. It's like a scene out of a movie or something. I have my rights,
All time. Ew.
Man, you can't be afraid to tell people you got
I'm not afraid. It's just things get around here real quick, man. I'm really not trying to have another call from Miss Walmart or Miss Williams.
Well, that wasn't a bad call, but it's still outside the door.
I understand, but there's only so much you can do when we gotta keep the door open, Alright.
Okay, yes, sir. This started.
Yeah, it started already. You might not have to do that. I'm gonna send y'all the link of the
Okay.
video. You'll have it. Unless you just want a different angle, that's on you. I would really pay more attention to what I'm actually doing than trying to record it. That way you get in here. Alright, so basically what I'm doing now is on an actual person, you want to find where their hair naturally falls, like this mushroom shape, right? Some people it'll be back here, some people it'll be more towards the apex of the head or the top part of the head or whatever, but you want to try to get it like this, to where it just falls naturally and nothing is really sticking up, alright? And the reason we do that is because we're going to go in and we're going to put the outline in first. And what that does is it gives you a perimeter and it gives you a guide, and you know how short you'll be cutting it and how long you want it to be, alright? So like I said, most clients don't speak in inches. They don't know how many inches they have their hair. They don't know how long they want to keep it. But what they do know is where they want it to fall when they comb it. So most people, they get out the shower in the morning, they brush everything forward. They want their hair, most men, they want it to fall a certain place over their forehead. If they have a big forehead, they want to try to keep it covered up. If they have a relatively decent one, they want to cut it about halfway. It depends on the preference. So for this case, where do y'all want Dylan's bang to fall? You want it past the eyebrow? Do you want it at the eyebrow? Do you want it halfway?
Halfway.
About halfway? Alright. So once you get that, I'm just using a basic pair of 6.5 inch shears. I ain't got the special stuff, alright? So once you get that, you want to go in, and with most men, you don't want to put too much tension on the front. You want everything to be as natural as it is. So the way it's laying right now is exactly how I'm going to cut it, alright? So we're going to go in the middle about halfway. And wherever they tell you they want it at, cut it at least a half a centimeter lower than that, because right now the hair is wet. Once it dries, it's going to shrink up, and then it's going to be higher than what they expected, alright? So you want to cut everything a little bit longer than what they say, alright? My bad, man. So typically when you do the bang or the bang area on a man, you want to go eyebrow to eyebrow. So you want to cut that line eyebrow to eyebrow. Doesn't necessarily have to be, straight right now, because most people don't want their bangs to be straight across. They want it to be more of a natural type look. There's multiple ways you can do that. You can go in and you can point cut it across, or you can do like I just did and naturally cut it across. Alright, so that's your front part. So the next part, we said he wanted over the ears and off the collar, right? So I'm gonna turn the mannequin around. So typically on a dude, when it's
Okay, that's a good question. Within this demonstration, can you do a little point cutting? So
yeah. For me, point cutting is not a technique I would use over the entire head. It's something I would do for stylistic purposes. If they want texture. Yeah, it's detail work. I would go in at the end and then I would go through and point cut. I'm not trying to sit here and do this over the whole head. That's just monotonous, you know what I'm saying? So, if he wants it off the collar, we'll just say this little brown thing will be his collar, right? And it's real simple. You just go right above the collar, and depending on what kind of quality shears you got, you should be able to just cut it. Alright?
So you still don't apply no attention. No attention.
No tension. Because ultimately what you're going to do, this is just giving you a frame to work around. You're going to ultimately go through and we're going to taper all of this up until however long we got the top. Alright. And it's basically that simple all the way around. You're doing the outline. So if they want it to hang over the ears, wherever they want it to hang, say they want it to be at the bottom of the ear. We take all of that. That's not a part of the beard that we didn't cut. You cut it to the end of his ear.
Alright.
So that's where his ear stops. So if they want it to hang over the ear, that's where you would cut it. If they want it over the ear, you go right over the ear. And right here doesn't necessarily have to be exact if they want it over the ear, because you're going to go back with your outliners and you can clean all that up. Alright, so like I said, this is just a framework for, your traveling guideline. Now the sides, like when you outline the sides, can be a little tricky depending on how their hair grows. Some people have cowlicks right here, everything grows out like this way, like around their ear. But you basically want to comb everything like this, and then try to make a straight line from the ear down to that line you put at the bottom. And you can see this position looks like really weird, right? That's why I bought the swivel shears, because I don't have to do all this crazy stuff. I can just, turn it. But I want this to be as, relative to what y'all have. So that's why I'm using these. Alright, so you see this side, you pretty much put the outline in, right? This side is what it started by. Alright? Of course, with symmetry, you want to do the same thing. This side. Alright, so now you have your outline in. That's pretty much the easy part. So now what we have to do is determine what type of taper that we want. Like, if they want that crazy layer cut that nobody really wears, where they say they want everything the same length, really, really uncommon. But that's when you would take this piece, you would measure it 3 inches, and then all the way around the head, however it grows out of the scalp, you figure out which direction it is, you measure it 3 inches, and you cut it. And that's how you do like the all one length thing, right? But most people want like what they'll call a short layer cut, meaning the top part is going to be slightly longer than the sides, and that gives you that layered look. So what we did in the front, he told you where he wanted it to fall. So what I usually do, I decide my length off of how long they keep their bangs. And the way I do that is to part it down the middle. And you don't want your part to be extremely wide. Like you want it pretty thin, right? In the front, you want to be real careful to over direct because the front part of the head curves down, right? So you see how my hand is towards you? And then you want to cut to the shortest point. So this is where the bang is, and this is how we're going to set this guy up. Alright? What's the rule of thumb? Don't cut past what?
Second one.
Feels so different. I haven't used these shears in like a couple months. Hopefully when you do this, that the person that comes in, their hair is not nearly this long. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be easier for you. So now, this is what?
Stationary guide.
Right. So this will be your stationary guideline, alright? So after you set that, you're going to come closer. I'll show you what it looks like. You see it? So you see how in the middle it's already cut, and then on each side, that's all you do. You work your way from front to back. And you just even it up with the middle. Alright?
Yeah.
Don't try to rush through it and don't try to get everything in one go. Just work in one area at a time. Alright, so don't worry about that part. When you get over there, you start cutting your
See, that's my issue. I started doing too much. I was like, because it's right there in front of me, I just want to go ahead and get it done.
No. Gotta be patient.
So what? That's on. You're gonna get to that side later.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay.
You want to work front to back and then side to side. Now I'm working on this side.
So is this like a 90-degree cut?
Kinda. It's like a mixture between 90 and 45. But you're doing 90 across the top, right? But you're pulling everything up.
So right now you're doing 90.
Technically.
Yeah.
Because I'm pulling everything the way it grows off
Yeah.
the top. So when I get over here, it'll still be somewhat of a 90, but then it transitions into a 45. Because you pull it out, and the closer you get to the bottom, you want to have your fingers kind of see how it's rested on the scalp.
Yeah.
So that gives you that 45-degree angle. So it's not, this would be 90 if I cut everything like this.
Yeah.
But since we want it to be a taper cut, I'm tapering everything downward. And
Yeah.
basically, how you figure that out is whether they want it over the ears or like hanging over the ears. Like, you see this piece right here?
Yeah.
I want to take my comb and I pull everything out, and my finger at the bottom should stop where this shortest hair is, and then I cut all of this off, and that gives you that 45. All right.
So you start from the top.
Mm-hmm.
So how long would a cut like that take?
It depends on how many guys you set and how fast you move. Typically, I can get one of these done in like 15 minutes.
Okay. So you kind of use the same system that you do when you fade.
The top down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Top to bottom.
And the reason I do that is because if I go in and cut the sides and I have all this length on the top,
Yeah.
it's gonna get in the way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We have all this extra hair, so now, depending on how they want it styled, so we're just gonna say he want everything styled to the back. So I'm gonna keep combing everything backwards as I'm cutting, right? That way I can see where everything I cut is gonna pretty much fall. So now that we've got the top part pretty much squared away, we wanna blend the top part in with the side. So we're gonna come here, and we're gonna go ahead and get rid of that.
I think I like that better. It kind of helps keep like a clean workspace.
Don't say nothing. Yeah, stand up, cause you fucking. I thought you were gonna call me out for cutting that second up.
You've been doing that the whole cut. The whole cut.
Yeah, we noticed that.
Yeah.
Hey.
The whole cut. I was about to say,
Uh-huh.
I need to get that ointment.
Alright, so of course the right side for right-handed people is gonna be easier. The left side is where most people get trouble. And basically the way you approach the left side is you wanna cut palm to palm. So you hold it like this, that's my guide, right? And palm to palm. Still not going past the second motion, alright?
This time.
Alright, so that's how you would do the left side.
Palm to palm on the left.
I mean, yeah, but that is like uncomfortable to me, so I either turn the chair if he was in the chair, or I just work my way all the way around with that traveling guideline, alright?
That's crazy.
What's up?
I'm the opposite. I have a hard time on the right side.
Alright, so now it's starting to take a little shape, right? I'm gonna turn them around so you can see how we get the back.
Yeah.
So pretty much we've come through here, right? We've already did this. So you see that?
Yeah.
I always use the big end of my comb, because if you use this, it's going to pull everything really, really fine, and it's going to give it real hard lines all the way through the cut. I don't really like doing that. So I use the big end so everything falls more natural. That's ultimately why people want scissor cuts, because they don't want it to be too precise. You know what I'm saying? So here, you get around the ear if you have a big enough comb.
You mean straight hair people?
Right. So if you have a big enough comb and you get around the edges, so whatever your hand can't grab or whatever your fingers can't grab, your comb can. Alright, so that's something that you have to remember. So when I get here, I can just take my comb. This is my guide, right? All of this will be cut off. Okay? And this technique is called what?
Shear over palm.
Shear over comb. And if you're not that, efficient or proficient at it, you can take it and still cut palm to palm. So you just pull everything out, and you match everything up with that line that we set at the bottom, and you will cut it palm to palm. Alright?
So I'm afraid you're gonna cut yourself.
I know, it
not
looks like
anymore.
it.
Yeah,
It does
yeah.
look like it, but
I see the skin red close to the body meat right there, just not like.
That's why you don't go past the second couple. But yeah, so that's pretty much how you would do the back. You would comb it out, pull it, and then you cut it. Alright? So the more of a taper you want, the more of an angle you're gonna put on this. I don't know if y'all can see that.
Oh, you're not glass.
Alright, so say they want it like a real close taper at the bottom. So if I want it to be closer at the bottom, I'm pulling my finger further out this way, right? And then I'll cut everything at a closer angle. Or I'll even rest my hand on his head and then cut everything at that angle. So it depends on how much of a taper they actually want. And at that point, you can probably go in with like a 4 guard or 6, and it'd be just about the same.
You said a scissor, a shear cut is cleaner,
No.
It's not as precise.
not as precise. It's
Makes
not
it
as
look
precise
more-
as the clipper.
Right.
It doesn't do those hard lines, it like makes you look more natural and smooth.
Like you're about to cut some meat.
I was thinking that too, but then I thought about it. I said,
What?
as long as we've been here, I never heard Mr. Regulus come in and say he cut himself at work.
Well, he's been cutting for a while.
Yeah.
He used to cut himself like we did at the beginning.
Oh, a lot. A lot.
I cut myself with the mannequin shears. That's when I knew I wasn't ready for the.
It's possible.
That's when I knew I wasn't ready for the other shears, the sharp one.
Alright. So we basically put a general outline around the mannequin. We've got pretty much how he wants it somewhat to be styled, because we've gotten all the dead weight off, right? So now what we do is what?
Clean it.
Detail work.
Detail.
So are you done with it?
No.
Like, are you done with the
Both.
bulk of it?
The bulk of it, yes.
So now you.
To some people, this is an okay cut, right?
I mean, he looks a lot cleaner for sure.
Right. But to me, I don't want him to go somebody else to try to follow up my work. And you got all these peaks and valleys and it's uneven, so we're gonna do what now? We're gonna cross check it, right? So if we cut everything this way, we cross check this way, right? So this is why we cross check. So as we was going back, see all that?
Yeah.
So this is why we cross check. I mean, these are things that they might not notice, but to us, it's some stuff that you gonna notice, right?
Yeah.
And I know for me, I have to cross check it because this side always ends up longer than this side. It never fails.
So what about the hairs that aren't keeping the same amount of tension as the ones?
What do you mean?
So like, so how do you say it? So right there, you pulled like a fairly big chunk of hair out,
I mean,
and you know how like some of the hairs don't keep the same tension.
that's why we cross check it.
Yeah, but like, is it okay that they slip out?
I mean, if you slip out, once you cross check and go back, as long as you go back and clip the loose ends,
You'll see it again, right?
right.
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, you want to do your best detail work because, like we said, that's what separates a good barber from a great barber is the detail work.
Yeah.
Some people go through and do that and they leave it like it is. You know, like, 'cause if they don't notice it, they don't care. You know what I'm saying? They just the overall look of it is appealing.
Yeah. Okay.
Alright, so I pretty much cross check the top. So how do you cross check the sides?
Same way. Opposite of the way you cut it, so yeah. You go like up and down, right?
Right. So that's when you would take maybe the wall combs, the big combs, you would comb everything out. And this is how you would cross check the sides. Alright?
Yeah.
So ultimately what you want to get to, once you start getting like efficient at shear cuts, you want to be able to do shear over comb to get this whole cut. You'll get through it a lot faster. That's why I can take a 35, 45 minute haircut and get through it in 15 minutes because I'm using my comb instead of my hand. So, and the only difference between your hand and your comb is that you're just able to see things a little bit easier. So you pick everything up and whatever sticks over, you cut it off.
So you can do comb over, shear over comb after you set your stationary.
After you set a guideline, you can
rock it out like
you can
that.
rock it out however you want to match it up. That's why I use my wall comb because it's easier for me to flip and do all that extra stuff.
Your wall, that's what
That's
that is.
the big comb, the big YG comb.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta have a pretty sharp pair of shears to get through it like that. So right now that's all I'm doing. I'm going through it. I'm just doing basic cleanup work to get all the stuff that hangs over. And this is pretty much that technique that I tried to show you all at the beginning, where you do this. That's all I'm doing. Just doing it around the head. Alright, so outside of the beard and the hair starting to dry out, this would pretty much be your basic all over shear cut. You know what I'm saying? You go in, you set your perimeter, you set the guide in the front, so however long they wanted it. If they wanted it to be 4 inches on the top, you would just make everything 4 inches and you would even it up that way. And that's basically all there is to it. And from there you can do a lot of different things, you know what I'm saying? If they wanted it to be shorter on the sides, you just hold your fingers closer to the scalp.